is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
Welcome to Spoil Me, covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 1, Episode 1, Josh Just Happens to Live Here. In this episode, sometimes we get a sign that we should do something. And sometimes we think we get a sign that we should do something. It's not always easy to tell. And I would like to say that I'm kind of Team Rebecca on this. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. So, first things first, many thanks to Megan for commissioning this episode. Megan commissioned this knowing that I dislike musicals and basically said, listen, if you don't like this first episode, that's fine. Just tell me and I won't commission anymore. But I want to hear you talk about it. So I just want you to try this one out, please. And I went into this with an open mind because, Melanie, I'm sorry. I scared her because this was before the recording, so I won't get into it, but my bad, Melanie. But this I went into with as much of an open mind as I could, because as much as I tend to dislike musicals, I have heard really good things about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And it's one of those that I just haven't gotten around to seeing. There's a lot of shows out there. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or Marvelous Miss Maisel is another one that I hear really positive things about. But I have just got such a packed schedule with watching. And I never seem to make it around to these kinds of shows until they're basically off the air. And if I'm not mistaken, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend just recently wrapped, right? I think that they just aired their finale episode. I might be wrong on that. So if anybody knows in the audience, please feel free to correct me. Megan says, yes, it just ended. Okay. Because I saw a lot of people who were very pleased with the way it ended. They felt like it did the show justice and that it was a good wrap that gave some, what's the word we want here? Closure, I guess, and stayed within the spirit of the show. And frankly, finales are the hardest thing to do. So if people are positive about the way a show ended, I feel like that says a lot about the show itself much of the time, because it's just a very tricky thing to wrap things in a satisfying way. So I went into this being all right, you know what? I've trusted Megan before. She has commissioned a couple other things that have all wound up being very good. And she's an OG of the Unspoiled family. So, all right, let's do this. And I watched it last night with Owen, who had been being pestered by a friend of his to please watch this show. So when I was like, hey, you want to watch this with me? I got commissioned. He was like, yeah, all right. I've been meaning to get around to that. And it was super fun. I was really pleased. For me, musicals, the reason that I tend to not like them is because they do not have any self-awareness a lot of the time. And this show doesn't suffer from that. The show is acutely aware of what musical theater is normally like. And that's part of why they chose that medium, because this is, in a lot of ways, a kind of fucked up story that they're telling. And this is an excellent way to undercut that and lighten the mood while also managing to get at the heart of things in a way that, a serious conversation just wouldn't have the same effect as her repeated attempts at denial are having. So I'm going to back up, but I just want Megan to know right out of the gate that I really enjoyed this. I laughed out loud a couple of times. And I don't know how many of you are friends with Owen on Facebook, but he recently made the banner image for his Facebook page, list of bitches I need to apologize to. And the last name on the list is Natasha. And I felt like that was a little bit of a sign that I'm doing the right thing here. So to start off this episode, we have this summer camp thing where there's a girl in the background who's got a retainer and pretty intense freckly makeup, and she's singing "I'm in love with a wonderful guy." And when she goes out and meets up with her boyfriend and is holding his hand, talking to him about how excited she was, I know that it was like a bummer my mom didn't show, but in that moment, it was like everyone was my mom. And it's a pretty heavy, like, it's one of those moments that it's like, it's supposed to be cute, but honestly, it's a little alarming right away. You're like, ooh, that feels like a red flag. And you can see on his face, he is not here for this at all. And she is not picking up on it. It's really pretty, like, this is something that I see all the time, and I'm always astonished by it. And I know that there are, certain, like, on the autism spectrum, there are people who cannot read body language. But I don't feel that that's what the show is saying about this character. I think it's just that she is so self-deluded that she simply doesn't see what she doesn't want to see a lot of the time. But this bit with him clearly pulling away from her every chance he gets and just not wanting to be part of this. Oh God, I have so seen this exact thing in high school and college, and it felt super duper awkward. And you're waiting for the hammer to drop, and it's coming as a viewer. It's perfectly obvious that it's coming. And she is totally oblivious. And, there's all kinds of signals that they're very different people. He's wearing a pretty plain hoodie and a camo backpack, while she is wearing this brightly colored parrot top and just has a pretty distinct look to her. Whereas he's a little bit generic, other than, being a dude of color. He isn't really trying to make a statement with his outfit. And you can just see that they're people who are interested in different things. It's obvious. And that's not something that precludes a relationship. You can really vibe with somebody who comes from a totally different background than you, but it's definitely looking like a bit of a mismatch at the outset. And then his parents are trying to summon him, and it's clear that he's intending to break up with her and move on with his life. And she thinks that they're going to have this romance that goes on over the summer, and he isn't interested. And we jump from him leaving her there. And I have to be honest, he is very straightforward with her. He doesn't try and fuck around at all. He dumps her because he doesn't think that they mesh. And that's valid. That's completely fine. But when he walks away, she's just standing there, absolutely bereft. And we jump immediately from her here at maybe age 16 to her at age 26, 10 years later, it says. And she has a whole different vibe and look. Her hair has been flat ironed. She is sitting in this expansive apartment. Her mother, as soon as she gets into the car in the flashback, is like, if you got pregnant, we are going straight to the abortionist. Nothing is more important than your future. Your future is all that matters. And when we flash forward into the 10 years from now, it becomes very clear that her mother is extremely high pressure. And that's part of what has led her down a path of doing things that she doesn't want to do simply because it's what she should do. And I feel like there's probably a whole lot of us that feel this way, that have had moments like this. I have been lucky in that my parents have been mostly supportive of the weirdo stuff that I have ventured to do in my life. And now here I am, a podcaster full time. Weird. But this is all something that I have felt somewhat solid about throughout my life. I've had moments of butting up against my dad, disapproving of things or whatever, but mostly I've been okay. But I have a lot of friends whose parents were more like this. And I always wonder what it's like. Like, some people I feel like in this place would be glad, because sometimes if you're a certain personality type, you don't really want to make decisions for yourself, and somebody just being like, here's what you do. Here's the roadmap. You will be successful if you do this, just do this. And there's certainly, I would think, some security or feeling of like relief from that. But there's also, you could start off thinking that you like that, and then start to realize as you get older that you've wasted a bunch of time doing what other people wanted you to do. And that's a shitty feeling. Or you could be of a totally different personality and want desperately to do something that's like creative. And it's just made very clear that nobody is going to approve of that or respect that. And so you forego that, because for you, the respect of people whom you respect is more important to you than a certain career, which, while we've been sort of like programmed by Hollywood to think that that's like a weak position to take, I find it irritating how flippant we can be about somebody just sort of shaking off the fact that the people that are most important to them in their lives don't approve of what they're doing for a living. That's a really hard thing to just move on and get over. I am able to take a lot of risks and do a lot of unusual things in my life. I think because of the fact that my parents made it clear that they kind of wanted me to try and do something different. I am a people pleaser in a lot of ways. So if my parents had been super, super clear about the fact that they wouldn't respect me doing this or that, I have a very, very huge suspicion that I would have wound up more where she is here. So she's staring. She's obviously like woken up really, really early or didn't sleep at all. She's listening to a message from her mother on her phone where her mom is like, don't you want this promotion? And honestly, in the first instance of seeing this scene, I thought she was in some kind of psychiatric unit. She has such a washed out, dead-eyed look. The lighting is really bluish, like fluorescent lighting. The background is all white, and she's wearing this like really nondescript gray t-shirt. So it looked like she was in kind of a uniform. And when the camera pulls back and it turns out that we're actually in a gigantic apartment, I was really shocked. Like, I like that there is a lot of juxtaposition here, and the show makes me think one thing and then kind of like bounces back and is like, but isn't it though? So we have like this moment where it looks like she's this one place. The camera pans out and it's clear that we're in like this huge apartment, and there's a feeling of like, oh wow, that's a nice place. But then when you really look, she's got no fucking furniture. She's got the bed and a nightstand, and then she has this like end table with the TV on it. And that's all that's in this huge ass room. And even the design of the box spring under, like at the bottom of the bed, I don't know how many of you noticed this, but I kind of zeroed in on this. The box spring is covered in like this quilted cover that looks like the padding from like a padded room. And I feel like that has to be a purposeful choice. I feel like they did as much as they could in this scene to kind of mesh the look of a really luxurious, successful apartment, and also a place that's like got no personality and is more of a prison. And she is super, super depressed. It's so clear. She has all of these like these different web windows open. One of them is a dating one. One of them is an article called How Much Sleep Deprivation Can We Survive? And one of them is 100 People Who Died During Sex. And I really enjoy the fact that these are the weirdo things that she is looking at. It's like she's trying to be like, let me try and date. I really don't want to do that. And I can't sleep. Am I going to die from not sleeping? Nope. Maybe I don't want to have sex because I bet you could die during sex. Has anybody ever died during sex? And I could totally like see that spinning going around and around all night. So then she hears this ad start, and it's a campaign for something that sort of looks like a margarine or, butter substitute. And it says, when was the last time you were truly happy? And she sort of stares and tilts her head, and this ad campaign starts coming up all over the place, and she starts to take it as a sort of sign that she needs to make a big change. And this is one of those things where I feel like a lot of people would be like, how about you just make a change because you need to make a change and not because there are a bunch of things pointing the way for you. But when you are the kind of girl that Rebecca is, and that I think in some ways I also am, having the approval of authority figures for what you do is really tough to unlearn. So in a way, having signs, quote unquote, things that you think are signs, you can tell yourself that this is a mark of approval from like a higher power, a supernatural sort of entity. Like there is a grand design watching you and approving of what you do. And that speaks to me, I know, in a certain way when it happens. And Rebecca is clearly ripe for something like this to like influence her. So she's walking through the office, and this woman pops up and is really excited to tell her that she is about to be made partner. And being made partner, I mean, she's not even 30 years old. This is an absurd amount of success to be getting at her age. She says something later when she's at the other office about how she just dropped a job that could make her $525,000 a year. And I would simply like to register my complete lack of understanding of that kind of money. And that's not even, $500,000 is plenty. In my opinion, you are rich at that point, but it is certainly nowhere near like rich. And yet it's still wildly outside of my scope of understanding. And I can't imagine being willing to drop that. Like, obviously that is where the similarity between me and Rebecca ends, because she has clearly had like some kind of financial security her whole life. And she has enough of a savings, I'm sure, because she doesn't buy any fucking furniture, that she can rest a bit and like live off of what she's got, and she's going to be fine. For me, this would not even be an option. I would just be like, well, I guess I'm just going to go on vacation to this area in town. So she gets this news that she's going to be made partner, and it should be really, really good news, but she basically has a panic attack, and she goes out into the parking garage and sort of curls up, asking herself why she's reacting this way, saying, this is maybe what happy feels like. This is what happy feels like. You're just not used to feeling happy, and this is what happy feels like. Yo, this spoke to me. I wasn't sure how this show was going to handle the fact that her, the whole thing is crazy ex-girlfriend. And to be honest, going into it, I expected it to be something like a guy says that some girl is crazy, and then you start to like uncover the truth about their relationship and realize that she is not in fact crazy and that he is a huge fuckboy asshole. And I find it pretty interesting that in this scenario, they've basically decided to be like, oh, no. Yeah, she's a little crazy. Like, it's nothing that we can't deal with, and she can cope with it and be medicated for it and all of this. But no, for sure, though, she's definitely like got some problems. And that they deal with them in simultaneously a very humorous, but also really compassionate way where, yeah, okay, maybe she's a little crazy, but also like, can you blame her? Also, don't you see how much this hurts her as much as anybody around her? Also, don't you like root for her despite all of this? And I really enjoy the layers of, you know, nuance that they're bringing to the table with something that is a comedy. It's just this kind of issue, especially in regard to our culture of like hyper-capitalism, is serious, but also darkly funny because it's so absurd at times that you can't believe we live in this world. And I love that. Like, I really enjoyed how they handled this. So she pulls out these pills that are meant for panic attacks, spills them like all over the damn place. And then when she looks up, there's that poster there again. When was the last time you were truly happy? And I love this. She stops and just goes, what a weird ad campaign. And as she's looking at it, there is a sign underneath that huge poster that says outdoor, and it's got a arrow, and it drops and tilts to one side really dramatically. And it is pointing at a guy on the corner. And this dude, when she looks at him, she realizes is Josh from when she was in this like high school program. And can I just say that I love the moment where she looks at him and goes, Josh? And you just hear this echo of, I'm in love. And she looks around like, what the fuck? I love that moment because it is just like, was that in my head? Did that just happen? Where is that coming from? Relatable. So she gets up and they basically like sprints across the street. And when they meet up, I honestly expected him to be a little bit more weirded out than he is. He seems to just kind of be like, no shit. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? But she is obviously having a very different reaction to this whole thing and is so much more intense, and he just isn't picking up on it. And in some ways, I think that's part of what charmed me a little bit about this guy was the fact that he doesn't seem to be so paranoid about her attachment to him that he even notices it happening. Like when he dumped her in the beginning of the episode, you genuinely get the feeling that he doesn't realize how much she cares about him at this point, or how at least obsessed she is. I hesitate to use the words care about him because I feel like that makes it sound a lot less sort of like self-absorbed it is, because I think it is with her in a lot of ways. This is clearly about her more than it's about him. But the fact that he doesn't see her and go, oh God, it's that girl. He seems to have like happy memories of this. And then he says something about how, well, if I knew that you turned out so successful and so hot, I guess I didn't think that I was letting somebody get away, but I definitely was. And she gets this look on her face. Like, the fact that he doesn't notice it, but she looks like he has just basically proposed marriage to her when he says that she's hot. So yeah, he's moved to New York and lived here for about 8 months, and he's planning to move away. And he says, I've been trying to make it work, but one day I realized why get stuck in a rat race. And he's saying all of the things. Why do that to myself? It's so awesome back home. It's so chill, so relaxed. Everybody is just like, happy. And when he says happy, that word echoes, and she's staring at him like, oh shit, you're part of this mystical equation, aren't you? So he says he's from West Covina, 91791. And she says, oh, yeah, I remember that. And I don't know if she does or if she is saying that. But nevertheless, he says something like, well, if you ever wind up out there, then you should let me know and we can go out together. And she was like, okay, not knowing at this point that he has a girlfriend. He doesn't mention that. I feel like that's probably as significant as she says it is later on. Personally, I think she's right about that. Whatever. But yeah, he gives her a card and he takes off. And this is the beginning of her deciding that she is going to do something really fucking drastic. So she turns down her offer of being a partner at this firm. And there follows the first musical number. So guys, what did I think of the first musical number? Let's talk about this. Honestly, it was really fun. First of all, it starts off with her like singing on the street and running by some dude who sort of looks at her like, what the fuck is this? Do you guys see this? Like he's just, it's not like, oh, there's a bunch of people here who are all going to join in on my little, it's a bunch of New Yorkers in the background who are just kind of mildly inconvenienced or annoyed at this woman making a spectacle out of herself, which makes a ton of sense because then when it transitions to Covina, all of a sudden everybody is participating in it, which is meant to be this like juxtaposition of what it is like to live somewhere people actually are happy. So we get to see this amazing little animated sequence. Hi, I loved this. I love like live action films with animated sequences like installed in them somewhere. I really do. I think that's such a weird thing. And I believe that my love for that sort of thing it started probably with like Xanadu when I was a kid. Do you guys remember Xanadu and the animated sequence where they're birds and stuff and fish? Oh my God, it's so dumb. But yeah, so she gets out of the car in West Covina and she's wearing like a similar dress to the one that she was wearing in New York, but it is like, it has a wider skirt covered in pearls and everything, and her hair is done a little bit different. And I love the fact that she is singing about how beautiful this town is when in fact it's pretty bleak in a lot of ways. This dude is spinning one of those like advertising arrows and it says something about like getting XXX entertainment. There's a bunch of bus stops with signs about like getting abortions and things like this, like sort of bummer messages. There's a billboard on the side of a bus with a Spanish lawyer, like accident lawyer, that says accidentes. This whole thing, I was cracking up throughout. This was super funny to me. And at one point, she sees a dude and taps him on the shoulder thinking that he's Josh, and he turns around and he's definitely not Josh, and she's super bummed out. But this whole, like, the way that this all went and the manic smile that she's got on her face as she's pretending that she's not here for him, that she just decided to move and he just happened to be here. And she is looking at places to move in, and she, like, the house that she takes is enough for like a 5-person family. It's obvious that living out here, she's going to be well within her means. The scene where she's trying to talk to the stripper who is just like basically like smacking her with her hair and whatnot. What a weird choice. I don't know if that was supposed to be like a signal to us that, hey, low key, she's bi and she definitely wants to see some strippers. If it's supposed to be, she doesn't have any friends here and she needs somebody to talk to, so she figured she'd go and see some strippers. Or she's never been to a strip club and she's somewhere new and trying out all the weird stuff, so she decided, yeah, let's go see some strippers. But whatever the case, it is really weird and uncomfortable, that whole scene, and the way the woman is like going up against her neck and everything. And she's just sort of trying to talk about this guy. So as this song continues, it starts to cut more and more quickly between different scenes. And she starts to get a little bit more frantic and starts to have a little bit more and more of a like desperate look to her eyes. And It's pretty great. And the way that she sings it at the end and like she like bounces back and really kind of looks like, is she smiling? Is she? Or is she just in terrible pain? Well, she gets surrounded by a marching band. And as she's like talking about how great they are, she's like, well, you guys are good. Bye. And then this guy comes in and starts shuffling them off and is like, budget cuts. Sorry, budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts. I kind of died. At that point, that was when Owen started to crack up and was just like, all right, yeah, you know what? I'm on board with this. So then she climbs into a giant pretzel and gets lifted into the air. And that sounds really goofy, and it is just as goofy as it sounds, and it's perfect. I mean, if I were going to pick an object that represents the town that I'm in, what would it would probably be like a corn dog or fried catfish, neither of which are particularly, a pretzel's a really good one. So honestly, Megan's saying, I think the stripper's name is Destiny. Oh, got you. Okay. I'm getting it now. So yeah, that ends the first number and it's great. I love how the joke is over and over again, people insisting that they're only 2 hours from the beach when in fact they are 4 hours from the beach. Listen, if you have ever lived somewhere with really bad traffic, that is so fucking true that they always try and like shorten how long it is to get somewhere. Or if you live somewhere that's near like a metropolis, when I lived in Connecticut, we would be like looking at houses to buy. Every place tried to be like only an hour from New York. They are lying. Okay. It's at least 3 hours from New York, you fucking liars. And that's like in good traffic, you know, but they were so fun. And then they'd try and be like, well, you know, if it's really good traffic or, you know, if you take the train. Oh, really? If you take the train, it's only an hour? You're also lying. Shut up. Get out of here. But yeah, so I love that little joke because it just feels really true. And then we cut from there to her in the kitchen of her new place, dumping all of her medication down the sink. Hi, that seems like a super bad idea, guys. Oh, so worried about this. And she's taking like 5 different things. I'm soups curious about what it is that she's on. I'm sure she's on some sort of antidepressant, maybe anti-anxiety, but like what else is going on here? And like how many of these things are valid that she's like really experiencing? And how many things has she been low-key gaslit into thinking are issues because her mom is just pressuring her so much all the time? Because I would not be surprised if she thought that she had some issues with stuff and her mother just sort of like bullied doctors into giving her medications for things. And then she kept on taking them even after she was like, you know, far away from her mom. She just kept getting them refilled. So what I'm saying is maybe some of those should be thrown away, but just doing them all cold turkey like this is not a good recipe for anything. So she's standing there and then she gets a call from her mom who is flipping out about the fact that she has just moved to California and not said a word about it. And her mom says, I hope this isn't like your little suicide attempt in high school. You didn't even break your skin and you inconvenienced a lot of people. Your Aunt Nancy was apoplectic. And that is another harsh one. Like people, and I'm going to be totally upfront here with you guys. I used to be this kind of person who really side-eyed like people who claimed to have suicidal tendencies or people who made what I thought were like half-hearted attention grabbing attempts at suicide that to me felt like they just wanted a bunch of people to feel sorry for them. And I was really, really ignorant about it. And now I understand that like maybe if somebody is willing to hurt themselves at all, they deserve some attention to be paid because they are in pain and that should be dealt with. But at the time, I felt like if you're in pain and going through some shit, go find help. Well, that's the way people find help a lot of the time. And I just didn't understand the implications of that. And I would get so frustrated with it. Like, just, and so this whole thing with like you barely broke the skin and inconvenienced a lot of people. How many of my friends have had this exact conversation with relatives? Like, for realsies, this is a serious thing that people have had said to them. Because they don't, like, this girl is on 6 different kinds of medication, and yet her mother is acting like she doesn't have mental problems. Obviously, she does. So I don't know why you're acting like this is all some big act when a bunch of doctors apparently think there's something really going on here. So yeah, this was just like, I wonder if her mother will always just be a voice on the phone, or if we'll ever get to meet her. But I kind of almost like her being a voice on the phone, because it turns her into a symbol in a way, like she's her inner voice, which I think that we all have these inner voices. I remember one of the first things that I was asked by a therapist when I was talking about like this little voice that tells me things. And she asked me, well, whose voice is it? And I said, it's me when I was like 17 years old. And she really seemed a little bit stumped by that one. I think she expected me to say my mom or something like that. And it's me. It's like this mean girl version of me. And I can see her mom being that for her, somebody who represents all of the, like, all of the shitty things that you think about yourself. So yeah, she dumps them all. She grinds them up in the garbage disposal. And then she so casually texts Josh and says, well, you remember how you told me that I should give you a buzz if I was ever here? Buzz, anyway, I was thinking that we could have something. We could have whatevs. So weird, right? And sends it. And then anxiously sits there waiting to hear back from him, and winds up asleep and wakes up and he still hasn't replied. Can I just say that depiction of her waiting for him to reply, then getting a notification, and it turns out to be you can get $20 a month off of your, like, it's an advertisement. Have you all been there? Because I've been there, and nothing makes me want to throw my phone into a wall more than that kind of thing. You just want to hear from this one person, and everybody decides to contact you except that person. That was the thing too, when I needed to like keep the phone line free when I was in school, and like 3 of my friends would call, but the guy that I wanted to talk to would not call. And I'd just be like, can you guys stop calling? I know that you want to chat, and I'm glad that you're my friends, but also fuck off. So she goes into her new job, and this dude, I can't decide what to think about him, but he is technically her boss, even though he is not fucking on top of shit at all. And the first impression that he gives is about the fact that he is like 1/8 Cherokee, and says, those are my people. And, he is like the whitest white guy. He is telling her how glad they are for her to be here, but also that he doesn't know why she's here, and everyone else is also equally confused by it because she's so talented, obviously. And I really enjoy how upfront he is about the fact that she's like slumming it, but also it's funny how everybody else is immediately a little bit like threatened by her, and it doesn't even occur to him to be threatened, which feels on brand. His name is Daryl Whitefeather. So yeah, later on, there's a whole thing about he's going through a divorce. He wants her to represent him, even though he's her boss. And then there's a whole thing about how his wife got some amazing Jewish lawyer. And she's like, actually, I'm Jewish. And his response is, wow, really? You would never know. Your nose is so tiny. It's like a button. For fuck's sake. Jesus Christ. I've gone on record on a couple of different shows as admitting that I am very aware of racism when it is, intended against Black people or Hispanic people. I'm even somewhat aware of it directed against Asian people, although I can miss some of the dog whistles there. But when it comes to racism against Jewish people, it's so unfamiliar to me that I will straight up miss a lot of it. And then there's things like this where there's no missing it. And I don't know if this is going to come up again, but oh my God, it's super, super uncomfortable. Jesus mother. So I'm running out of time here, but she gets introduced to this other woman, Paula, whom she takes to be her secretary or her assistant or something. And it turns out that Paula's like basically in charge of this department. It's a weird moment because I couldn't decide if I liked Paula. Like parts of me liked her and parts of me were just like, I don't really have a good grip on you here. And she's like simultaneously weirdly threatened, but also like aggressive in a way that does not feel like it's being reciprocated at all. So it just kind of is going out into a void. And she says something about great knockoff Louboutins. And when Rebecca's like, actually, they're real. Paula says, Lindsay Lohan wears those. She's been to jail 6 times and has fake hair. Did you know that? Everyone knows that, right, Mrs. Hernandez? What a weird moment. It turns out, by the end, I kind of love Paula. But right here, I had no idea what to think. And she confronts Rebecca, essentially, and is like, hey, so I know that you're full of shit and that you're lying to me and everybody else about why you're here. And I just want you to know I am 100% going to figure it out. And that is going to be my main hobby for the next couple of days. So just be ready for that. And it does not seem at all to like really sink in for Rebecca because she does not take that threat seriously. She should have, because Paula is not here to play. She goes searching through her computer and figures out exactly what the fuck is going on. So we're going to jump from there to Rebecca going into this bar. And I don't remember exactly how she knows that Josh comes to this particular bar. If he's mentioned it, maybe he mentioned it in the little moment that they were talking on the street. But she comes in and the bartender is a very like ordinary dude and is clearly sort of flirting with her. And she is ignoring him a lot of the time because she is staring around the room looking for Josh. And he is weirdly into the fact that she's looking for Josh. Like he says something about how, well, you are clearly ignoring me, so you're obviously my type. And she turns around and is like, what? And he's like, exactly. So yeah, she is waiting for him. And this dude tells her, well, Josh was just here, but he just left. And he's going to be at this party tomorrow night. Would you like to go with me? Oh, Megan says he checked in on Facebook. Oh, okay. She's stalking his Facebook. Totally makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So she agrees to go thinking that he's just like asking her if she just wants to go to the party before she realizes that he means a date. And even once she realizes that he means that, she's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Okay, sure. Like, as long as it gets me to where I need to be, I'll go on a date with you and then I'll just, leave. I'll not be on a date with you anymore. And this transitions into the amazing Sexy Getting Ready song. Guys. If I told you everything that I personally go through to get ready because of the the hair type that I have, plus the fact that I'm fat, and so I need lots of like undergarments for clothing to fit me properly. That moment where she has this girl behind her yanking her shapewear up for her, that is real. That is a real, real moment. And I loved it. And I just love the whole tone of it and her like being really sexy and a little too aggressive with the eye contact and everything as she's like stalking down these stairs. The whole thing is so overdramatic and so amazing. I love all of these women that are in this with her who aren't anything like they're not women that we've seen other places in the show, I don't think, but I bet they're going to show up a couple times. She is put like, I love that we cut from her to let's see how the guys get ready. And it's just this dude that just asked her out, the bartender, passed out on his couch asleep, not putting in any effort because that's, of course, how it goes. And all of the other women that are backup singing and dancing with her are also wearing Spanx, have face masks on, have those like nose like pore strips on, have foils in their hair, huge curlers in their hair. One of them has that like bleach for a mustache across the top of her lip. They're all just in like various states of like so much effort being made. And she's using all of these different like appliances. And one of them is the spinny brush that I definitely use all the time. Another one is a curling iron, and she burns her neck really bad, which if you guys have never experienced a curling iron burn, I don't know how to tell you, but they are one of the most painful fucking things just thinking about it gives me the heebie-jeebies. It's so bad. So this was awesome. I love this song. She goes to the party. It's so awkward. I don't even remember the name of the guy that she's here with, this bartender dude. Is it Dave? He seems like a Dave. Greg. He seems like a Greg too. Thank you, Megan. He is really like aware that she is here for Josh and obsessed with Josh, but also kind of wants to not care about that because he's like kind of into her because of the fact that she's like so unavailable weirdly. And she decides to convince him that she's not super interested in Josh by making out with him. And they start to make out all over the party. And she's using this to distract him as she like stares around trying to find him until finally here comes Paula. And she confronts her and is just like, hey, I went in through your Facebook and you checked his Facebook page 63 times today and his Instagram 18 times. And I know that you moved here for true love. And it's a weird transition because she goes from, I can't believe that you lied to me, this is just like crazy, to then, no, you know what? I'm going to help you. And the reason that it transitions is because when she says, you moved all the way here for a guy that you dated how long? And Rebecca has to be like, I'm going to rewind it because, where is it? So you're saying that I moved here from New York and I left behind a job that would have paid me $545,000 a year for a guy who still skateboards. I did not do that. Here's what happened. I was in New York. I ran into Josh. He made me feel warm inside, like glitter was exploding inside me. Then I moved here. I did not move here because of Josh, because that would be crazy, and I am not crazy. And Paula just stares at her, and she sort of stops and then goes, oh my God. Oh my God. No, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh no, 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 no. Oh my God. Oh, I'm crazy. I'm crazy. Oh my God. And basically starts to have a bit of a meltdown as she is faced with the reality of exactly what she did. And Paula is like, listen, I'm sorry. I clearly sent you spiraling here. I thought confronting you would be kind of fun and I would get some satisfaction because you seem to be a snob. But now I'm seeing that you are genuinely a little bit like delicate and maybe I should not have handled this way. So how about I'm going to be your friend? And Rebecca's like, you're my friend? And Paula says, I would be proud to be your friend. Now that I know the truth, what you did for love, for true love, the sacrifices, the money you walked away from. And they get into another version of the song. And can I just say that Paula has the voice of an angel, and I want her to sing every single song. She started singing and I almost started crying. And this is a goofy fucking song, but that's how good she is. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much. She and this whole like teaming up is so beautiful because we have this moment of Rebecca trying to talk herself down using what Greg told her and being like, well, it turns out that he has a girlfriend. And Paula immediately, what? That doesn't make any sense. And he's single on Facebook. So if he was into her, why would it say that? And Rebecca says, that's what I said. And she says, exactly. All right. This is why you need me. We're going to figure this out. And if we play this right, one day it is going to hit him like a bag of nails to the balls. And that day he will text. And then the phone chimes. And guess what? I love this so much. Are you a witch? Is what she says. And it's him. And he says, you want to grab dinner? And I'm hoping that he means tonight so that she can just show up in this amazing dress that she's wearing, because I don't think I got a chance to talk about it. But this hot pink, like low-key backless, super low-cut bandage dress that she is wearing is the stuff of dreams for me. And I love it so much. I want it. I want it so much. I love everything about this like borderline tacky look. It's my favorite. I wish that I had a dress like this and somewhere to wear it. But yeah, I am a big, big fan of this ending. I really like that they're having these two women who start off being at odds, actually being buddies all of a sudden and like on the same side. I am really curious as to what the hell is going to go down with like Josh once he sees her and maybe starts to pick up on like how obsessed she is. I'm not sure if he will or what. And then we have this amazing thing with Nipsey Hussle. When she starts off the Sexy Getting Ready song, he comes in, looks around, and is horrified and disgusted by all of the things that she has to do in order to make herself look a certain way and get ready. And he says that she has made him rethink his whole worldview and that he has to get out of here because this is a bunch of patriarchal bullshit and he has a bunch of women that he needs to apologize to. So we cut to the ending where he is at a desk and he is calling this woman. And I love when she picks up the phone, this woman has this look on her face like, this motherfucker, what does he want? Like she has clearly got some history. So this first one is Denise. I recently had an eye-opening experience. I'm calling to apologize for the way I treated you when you danced in my recent music video. Denise, I'm sorry that I showered you with Cristal. I didn't even ask if you like champagne, and it probably messed up your blowout. Ashley, I realize now that it wasn't up to me to tell you what to do with that big fat butt. You can wiggle it, or you could sit down in the classroom and get that communications degree. Chelsea, I'm sorry I put you in a bikini made of gold coins and then made you dance on the roof of my Bentley. I realize now that metal conducts heat, and that was probably a very uncomfortable experience. I adored this so much. Denise, call me back. I just would like to discuss The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, which I just read. You are beautiful inside as well as out. You are my equal. And then he hangs up and he crosses out her name because he's all done. And I would like to bring your attention to the fact that I am at the bottom of the list. Hello. He owes me an apology also. That is a wonderful ending, and I cackled. And thank you very much to Megan for making me watch this. This was a good time. I know it wrapped. Was this the 3rd season? 4th season? How many seasons of this are there? They're like having a weekly musical episode. I mean, I was about to say that seems like so much work, but I guess there are a lot of shows out there that did this. There are 4 seasons. Okay. But yeah, I'm impressed so far. So I hope that you guys appreciated this coverage. And if you do, give Megan a shout out and tell her thank you for making me watch this. Even though I hate musicals, she decided to take a leap of faith. And I think that was rewarded. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap up. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me and being here. You're great. I love you all. Big, big hearts. And I see that Devin's here. Sorry, Devin, I didn't mention your comment, but I'm excited because Devin is going to be going out to dinner with me and Owen tonight. So Devin, what's up? I'm very excited about this. All right, guys, I will be seeing you all soon.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.